Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Prep Football Preview presented by FriendshipCars.com, our weekly high school football preview show. I'm Kenny Hawkins, along with, of course, my tag team partner, Jesse Crawl, and we're ready to, as we like to say from time to time, bring the juice
Hey,
tonight.
we always bring the juice, baby.
That's right. Opening of the playoffs for the teams in Tennessee tomorrow, while Southwest Virginia closes out the regular season. So let's preview some of the top games that we have for Friday night. We'll start in Tennessee. As I just mentioned, it's playoffs. Its first game, Farragut and Science Seal. Farragut coming in with a below 500 record. Science Seal has been rolling as of late. They won their last 4 or 5 games. Of course, one of those coming against Dobbins-Bennett. Has Science Seal found its stride at the right time?
I think they have, but it's tough because Baylor Brock didn't play. And if they're able to get him and bring Dobbins-Bennett down 21-3 without him, that's pretty impressive. So congrats and tats off to these guys just stepping up. Obviously, you had Jackson Diamond under center. The TORBETT boys, you got Cole and Jack. I thought they were brothers when this season started. Actually, they're cousins. So if we ever made that mistake, sorry, boys. We see that last name and we kind of assume that, and you go to the same school and play on the same team. But they got a lot of guys that like to play both ways too. And one of those guys is Keenan Cutlip. He's a good wide receiver, but he's also a great defensive back. Cade Fleeman, he's a linebacker for this team. He's stepping up at the right time as well. And I really think what the big thing that the Science Hill team has done is keep Jackson upright. I mean, this offensive line really seems like it has hit its stride, and the defensive line as well. But looking at this Farragut team, when you look at what they bring to the table, I mean, they've got a quarterback, Dawson Moore, that we saw last year. You've seen the highlights of, it was Dobbins-Bennett Science Hill game, but you saw the highlights of the Farragut Science Hill game last year. That kid can sling it. He can let it fly. So those defensive backs in the secondary better be ready for that. But if they do shut down that passing attack, he's got a couple of running backs and Schumann Z and Elijah Gibbs that really can run the ball really well. So if Science Hill is going to come out on top, and they have a lot of momentum, and that's what you want going into the playoffs. I mean, you want to have that momentum. You don't want to back your way in. But it's just one of those teams where it seems like they're hitting their stride at the right time. But you got to keep it going. Just because you're doing it right in the regular season doesn't mean you can't stop. You got to raise that bar every single game, especially in the postseason.
And we should mention that Baylor Brock, as you said, did not play in the DB game. He was sidelined due to illness. So a good sign. He should be back.
Yep.
But we cannot lessen the effort by Cade Fleeman, who was just he responded well. I mean, we talk about next man up. He stepped up, carried the ball 12 times, total of 79 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Some of those touchdowns were men touchdowns. They were just easy. He had to fight for. But I think where he was really impressive was on the defensive side of the ball. Fleeman and Justice Sutton, pretty much at linebacker, they were unstoppable. I mean, Dobbins-Bennett didn't do – and we talk about Dobbins-Bennett's offense all the time.
Yep.
I mean, you just mentioned just a minute ago some of the names for DB, but they were shut down by the Science Hill defense.
Oh, I mean, it's incredible. I mean, we know what Dobbins-Bennett's offense has done. They're a little hot and cold, so I don't know if they got Dobbins-Bennett's best effort or offense that night. But for Science Hill to be able to come out, shut them down, get their offense going a little bit. Obviously, you want to see those points go up, but I know DB has a tough defense. But I know the Science Hill team can put up the points. I mean, we've seen it, but I think it crucially is so important for this offensive line to keep Jackson upright. When you keep Jackson upright, it's going to open up the running game as well. So when you open up the running game and you have Baylor Brock playing, like you said, it was an illness. So I assume he's playing. We're not Adam Schefter here. Yeah, we're not Adam Schefter breaking news saying Baylor Brock's going to play tomorrow. But if he does, that's a huge weapon for Science Hill in the run game. And once he gets going a little bit, starts turning those legs, it's going to open up Jackson and the rest of those wide receivers, as I mentioned before. And I guess the opportunities are limitless for this offense.
And 2 things. A, we would take Adam Shatner's paycheck.
Oh, I will absolutely take that any day of the week.
And B, by keeping Jackson Diamond upright, cuts down on interceptions.
100%.
We had an opportunity to talk to the Science Hill football team head coach Stacy Carter and a couple of players about this opening game against a dangerous Farragut team.
It's a big opportunity for us. I mean, we have that opportunity to play at our home field as long as we're keeping playing, as long as we keep winning. So I think that's when you strive for something at the first of the season, that's where you want to get. And these guys have put themselves in good position and played well to get here. So we're just proud of our kids and what they've accomplished and to have an opportunity like this.
DB was a big win, but we're past that now. We got to make sure we're still on our game, making sure everybody's doing what they need to do and not slacking. just because we have one big win, we're still going through the playoffs.
For me, it was a big deal. Playoffs, playing at home. So I mean, I don't know. We just got to impress the crowd. It's our hometown. Show out.
Hopefully we can ride the momentum, but it's a tough week. We're going to get after them. So anytime you play a game after a rivalry week, it's really tough. So and we're facing a real tough opponent also. But I think our kids are playing confident, and I think they'll continue to play confident.
We've never, throughout my high school career, I haven't been able to play a home game like postseason, like in the playoffs. We've always had to go to Maryville, and it's good to be on our home field for postseason.
Our defense is playing extremely well. We've given up 3 points in the last 2 weeks, which is a great thing, and I think you can say they're playing well. And offense is starting to click. We've had a couple big games. We even moved the ball well in the rain last week in just atrocious weather. So I think that the kids are doing a great job coming together. They're having fun still, and I think they want to keep playing.
From what I know, offensively, they can throw the ball. We played them last year, and their defense, their linebackers were good at staying on the pass plays.
We're very familiar with them, but how they can be stopped is, I mean, I think we can't turn the ball over. If we continue to play the good defense we've been playing and we don't turn the ball over, we're going to win a lot more games. But that's what we got to control. We kind of got to control our own destiny when it comes to that.
Okay, as I mentioned earlier, this is a Farragut team that comes in with a below 500 record. However, they have won 2, or should I say 3 of their last 5 games. 2 of those losses have come against teams like Bradley Central and Fulton, 2 of the best teams in the state. Okay, this is not a team that you want to sleep on just because. And here's the other numbers. These 2 teams have played 8 times. Ever. Science Hill only won 1 time, and I think that was back in 2013. Farragut has always given Science Hill fits.
And you talk about Farragut, and I wouldn't say they were sleeping on them last year, but Science Hill had momentum going into that game. You know, they were looking really good. I honestly thought they were going to blow Farragut out. I go, this game's over. I think their coach that was his first game back after cancer or something like that. Yeah. And, you know, obviously there's a lot of emotions there, so a lot of motivation as well. But, you know, this Farragut team is really good, man. I mean, we've seen it before. We've seen it last year. I think what they really need to do, as I mentioned before, is just being able to get to Dawson more, because that kid has an arm on him. I mean, he just lets it loose whenever he wants to. So that secondary better be ready, because if it ain't, they're going to get burned.
Well, he's also a dual-threat quarterback, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, you're right. I mean, he can throw the football. One of the guys he likes to throw to is Trace Corum, who had 55 catches, 850 yards, and 11 touchdowns this year. I think he's also scored 3 on the ground. But he's a dual-threat quarterback, so you got to have a spy. I mean, if he drops back and everybody drops back and you leave it open around the linebacker position, he's going to take off and run.
Well, and that's what I brought up, too. I go, if this offensive line and this defensive line for Science Hill is going to be the X factor for this game, because if they're able to get that pressure on him and being able to pin their ears back and get going, it's going to make him uncomfortable. And, I mean, they've got the size up front. They just got to be able to show it against this Farragut team. I haven't seen what this Farragut offensive line looks like. Obviously, we haven't seen them play a lot. I don't even think they've played a team from this area at home. I don't know. I don't remember. But I can only imagine they're that good if they're able to, you know, put up the yards they have this season and, you know, be able to have the kind of stat line that Dawson Moore has. So Science Hill's able to fill those gaps, get pressure on him, being able to make him uncomfortable, throw those wobbly passes, throw those inconvenient double coverage type passes. It's going to be a good night for Science Hill. And I think what he just brought up, one of the players, I forgot who it was, talked about how this is their first home playoff game for the senior class, I'm pretty sure. So what they need to do is come out with a lot of energy, numerous type of juices. Whatever you need to have, you got to come up with that, because there's going to be absolutely a lot of energy. Playoffs always bring that extra step, and you just got to be able to bring it, especially this home crowd too, because they know that this doesn't come around every year, just like some of these teams from this area. You know, if this is the senior class's first home playoff game, you got to make the most of it.
And here's the thing. I mean, here lately, I don't think Science Hill fans have really turned out. I mean, they've had pretty good crowds, but not great crowds.
This
is a game where you really need a great crowd. I don't think it's going to rain Friday. I think it's supposed to be clear. It might be a little chilly. One other thing about the Admirals defense, Jack Alley, Sam Moses, Jerome Becken, and Bryce Fontenot keep those guys on your mind, because they're really running the Admirals defense. And while the offense has been kind of up and down, the defense has been pretty steady this year. All right, let's go to game 2, and that's going to be Knoxville Carter and Elizabeth. And it seems like we haven't really talked about Elizabeth a lot this season,
radar,
especially here lately. You know, they have been under the radar. They're going to be at home against Knox Carter, and obviously this is a time of the season that, yeah, they're very familiar with.
I was going to say, Sean Witten always steps up in the postseason, and I think what happened is, honestly, I think a lot of people just kind of wrote them off after that Greenville loss, but they rattled off 7 straight victories since that loss to the Green Devils, and we know what this team has. You have Bryson Rollins, who is up for Mr. Football. You have Jake the Snake Roberts, who was also, you know, a threat, whether it's as a wideout or a defensive back. He can make some plays on the defensive side. And then you got Cade Russell. But the thing that kind of stood out to me, and it obviously Jake is a great athlete, a great wide receiver, but the only thing that scares me is that he's the only wide receiver with over 200 receiving yards. So if he gets shut down, double coverage, double teamed, whatever you want to do, I'm not going to say this passing attack shuts down, but that's going to be a huge piece of this puzzle if you want to keep moving, especially on, you know, beat teams like Knox Carter, you know, that have that experience, that have those guys that have been here before, that have played those big-time games. So we know what Bryson Rollins can do. He can obviously run the ball. He can pass the ball. The kid's dangerous. We know that. We know there's plenty of weapons on this team. And I'm not trying to knock Elizabeth. I'm just saying that.
He talked about it when we did their game earlier this year against Daniel Boone.
Yep.
When we did the pregame meeting with the coach, he talked about the fact that they were going to put Nate Stevens out there a little bit more because they really needed him more involved in catching the football. And it just really hadn't worked.
Nope.
To be completely honest with you, and that's the reason why you don't see a lot of yardage as far as passing. So once again, it's going to be about, let's get on the back of Bryson Rollins and see how far we can go. And trust me, Superman, all right, has been fantastic. He was not, obviously we said that he was a Mr. Football. This is the last couple of years. He was not one of the semifinalists this year that I announced earlier today. Obviously, also on defense, a lot of kids going both ways. You got Drew Turner, Harrison Lane, and Bradley Cannon, who was just lights out in their last game against, I think it was Seymour. I think the defense obviously is going to have to step up against this Knox Carter team.
And it really is. I mean, you talk about Knox Carter. They got Chandler Wilson. He's also their leading rusher. So we got another dual threat quarterback out of Knoxville. And I've seen some video of that kid. That kid has some wheels on him. And, you know, it's going to be interesting because when you face a team that has a dual threat quarterback like Elizabethan and Knox Carter, you're kind of seeing it from both sides during practice. So the Elizabethan defense obviously knows what a running quarterback can do. They've had it for him since sophomore year. He's been leading this team. He knows what he's doing. So I think they're going to be used to that Chandler Wilson running the ball and everything like that. But let's just say he gets shut down in the running game. I mean, he's got plenty of weapons. He's got Kaylor Harper and Brody Blankenship, 2 wideouts that are very stellar right now. So once again, a Knoxville team that's really well-rounded, and you just got to be able to, you know, key on that offense. And obviously, we know Elizabethan has some experience on the defensive side too. I mean, these kids, they're not just going to roll over. I mean, they held Seymour to 8 points. Now, that doesn't mean much, but you know, 8 points is 8 points no matter who you play. So if Elizabethan is able to shut down, you know, that passing attack and that rushing attack from Chandler Wilson, I think they're going to have a good night.
And this past week, we had an opportunity to talk to the Cyclones head coach Sean Witten and some of his players about their upcoming game against Knox Carter.
We're just glad to be at home, and we're playing a new opponent. So it's a lot of sense of urgency. It's great to be excited and play a new opponent. You know, it's a great challenge. We've been on the road the last couple of weeks, so you know, it's a new season. It's a fresh start. You know, everything kind of gets thrown out, and we're just excited to be playing and picking up, ready to go for the games in November.
It's really important, you know. We've really been counting on our defense in these last few games to step up, and I think as a whole, we're really getting into a rhythm. So it really just reflects how we're feeling on the field, I think.
You also have to have momentum coming into practice. You know, we're trying to take day by day, you know, every single day, come in, hard work, don't be late, you know, do what we need to do, and that's the biggest thing.
We're just excited to be in the playoffs. We're going to take it one day at a time, one game at a time, one round at a time. You know, you can't get caught looking ahead. You just got to be the best you can, and you know, anything can happen in the playoffs, so you got to be ready for everything.
I really don't think there's any pressure for us. Like, as a team, we really just feeling like go out there and play our game. Really, it's no really added pressure or anything.
You know, we've heard they're a good passing team. We expect a lot of pass. that's what we're mostly working on, you know, reading, as a defensive player, reading whatever they're going to do offensively, and that's passing. I expect them to come out and, you know, give it everything they got, though, because, you know, win or lose now.
Just the uncertainty, not knowing. Film study can only prepare you so much until you get out there on the field, and everybody's different in person. So just not knowing exactly who you're going against, like, because we played Greenville already, we played AC already.
This is a really good football team, an up-and-coming program. The coach has done a great job in his second year, and you know, 6-4 team. They played really good competition. Sevier County, Walker County, South Doyle, Fulton is in a tough league. Anderson County, so they faced a lot of good teams this year, and so you just got to be ready for a great challenge.
And he's right. As we talk about Knox Carter, their defense led by Cash Alton, Nick Corum, and Jed Leak. Let me ask you, and I'm sure many teams have tried this over the last 3 years, and it has not worked, but we just now talked about the fact that Elizabethton really has not been able to throw the football this season. So if I'm Knox Carter, why not try and go in and make them one-dimensional and say, okay, Bryson, if you're going to beat us, you're just going to have to beat us with your arm?
And that's the thing, too. It's tough because – I mean, that kid's, he's that good. I mean, there's a reason why he's a Mr. Football finalist. I mean, he's that good with his legs, and he can make people miss. And we've seen his moves. I mean, he just doesn't run over kids. He just doesn't use his wheels. It's a little combination of both. I mean, he's that big of a kid. He's burly. You know, he's got some speed with him, and he's got that arm. So I think it's one of those things where he's so good that he makes his teammates around him so much better. And that's a test. I mean, I'm not trying to knock Jake Roberts, because obviously that kid's amazing too, and it's a testament how well he's doing to be able to, you know, be the only wide receiver with, you know, that many yards. But I think what Elizabethton really needs to do is they got to try to spread the field out. I mean, when you start spreading the field out more, it not only opens up the running lanes for Bryson and all the other running backs, but it also opens up the field for Jake Roberts and all the other wide receivers. So if they're able to do that, they want to spread out the field. They want to spread out this Carter team. And if you're able to do that, that's good. And I think the biggest thing that really comes into play right now that maybe Knox Carter doesn't have, I haven't really looked at their roster big time and see how many seniors they have, is that experience.
Yeah.
I mean, you get into playoffs and some teams just freeze. I mean, we've seen it how many times with some of these guys that, yeah, they're good in the season, and then when playoffs hits and they hit a little adversity, they kind of just shut down. I think Elizabethton has that battle-tested fight that they have, and I think that's going to be interesting to see. If they are down 14-7 or if they're tied at late in the game, it's like you know who's going to step up. It's going to be number 10. He's going to step up big time, and he's probably going to look to Roberts for, you know, a big-time play. So if Elizabethton is close tomorrow night, which – who knows? Maybe they blow them out. Maybe I'm just talking, you know, out of the side of my mouth right now. But I think this one's going to be very interesting.
Well, you know, as you see highlights right now of Knox Carter, and I think against Sevier County, one thing that they do, and we've talked about, they throw the ball. Okay, you look at their numbers, they don't really run the ball that much. Spencer Russell and Caleb Harper are the guys on the corners for, as you mentioned, Chandler Wilson, who's a dual threat quarterback who runs it more than he throws.
Yep.
So expect Carter to throw it a lot. So Elizabeth's defensive backs will have to be ready. But I think this is going to be a Cyclone win at home in the opening round. This is a team that they've got their sight on one thing, and that's getting back to get a chance at Greenville. So, and obviously 3 in a row. But first they want to get to Greenville first.
I'll take it round by round. I can't get to it myself.
There you go.
One
step at a time. Okay, let's go to game 3. We stay in Knoxville, this time with Knoxville Halls, and they take on Daniel Boone. And this is a team that we talk about it every week. Started off slow, started to pick up momentum, and they're rolling now. They come off a win against David Crockett in the Musket Bowl, and then they take out Hampton, a smaller team, but still a great team up here.
Most definitely.
But they take out Hampton last week. And some guys that we really have to talk, and we talk to one of them all the time, Will Hamlin. But Peyton Ford, Hamlin, Jonathan Sullivan, and Scott were really strong in the defensive line.
I'm just going to say this, and I tip of the cap to Coach Jenkins. If you would have told me, not even just 3 months ago or 2 months ago, maybe just a couple of weeks ago, if you would have told me that Daniel Boone is going to be hosting a home playoff game, I honestly would have thought you were crazy. And like I said, no knock on Daniel Boone. They have fought. They have just absolutely brought it every single week, including that Musket Bowl and obviously Hampton last week. But you bring up this team, and I don't think there's one kid that just stands out and just absolutely takes over the games. It's kind of, you know, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and it just kind of comes together, and it works for them. I mean, you got Luke Jenkins. He's not going to, you know, obviously blow anyone away with how much he throws the ball in any game. And then when you look at the running back core, I mean, you got a handful of guys that like to toke the rock. I mean, you got Austin Reiner, Braden Blankenship, Caleb Worley. I mean, those guys absolutely get it done running the ball. And, you know, we've seen Daniel Boone's size. That's their bread and butter, whether it's on the defensive line or the offensive line. Those kids got some size. I can tell you this much, those guys have definitely been to Golden Corral once or twice because those kids are massive. And I talked to the Hamlin's parents, and they were excited too. They said, hey, you know what, it's been a tough season, but guess what, we're excited to what's going to happen. And, you know, obviously Will's, you know, doing a tremendous job. Henry, his younger brother, is doing a phenomenal job as well. So those two kids, absolutely amazing on the defensive line, being able to, you know, pinch the insides on the defensive end. So
I didn't know where you were going with that at first when you said I talked to the Hamlin's parents.
And then I said, hey,
I thought you were going to say they were huge too.
No.
No,
They invited me to Golden Corral. I said, I can't do it.
Yeah,
you know,
what you going to do with them? What you going to do with the Hamlin brothers? Come on.
Hey, I'll go one plate. They'll go about 4 or 5. I'll tell you what.
I'm glad you mentioned Henry. He was at linebacker. Bo Newton and also Edwards did a fantastic job at linebacker for Daniel Boone as well.
So, I mean, yeah, and that's this thing too. It's, you talk about a team hitting its stride, and I think Daniel Boone has finally hit that stride. You know, obviously they had the early season struggles. You know, you play a tough South Green team that, you know, they beat, so that was something that they could hang their hat on. But after that, it was just COVID and the away game, COVID, loss. Then you have your first home game. You play a tough CAK team, and it just seemed like it wasn't going to stop. And then they stopped it, and now it's going in the right direction. It's going up. So Coach Jenkins, obviously he has experience underneath his belt. He knows what to do every single week in and week out, try to get his players ready. And when you look at this Knox Hall team, they've got plenty of speed, they got plenty of size. But I'm going to be honest, no knock on other teams from this area. I'm going to take Daniel Boone, no matter how many big offensive linemen Knox Halls has, defensive linemen, it don't matter, because these guys are definitely a moving company.
You talked about Blankenship. He carried the ball 17 times last week, 112 yards. And then what he didn't do, Hagan Edwards finished for him. Yep. And I think, as we talked about, I think Luke Jenkins continues to get better and better each week, I think, in controlling the offense and also throwing the football. And I think that's opening up things as far as running the ball for Daniel Boone. We had an opportunity to talk to Jeremy Jenkins and his football players about being at home this Friday night against Knox Halls in the playoffs.
I think we're on a 3-game winning streak, playing the best football we've played right now, especially in the line of scrimmage. So, you know, that's going to carry over. But we know now it's survive in advance. You know, we're at home as long as you stay winning. So, you know, we know there's a lot of expectations out there, and we want to meet those head on.
Well, we were really close to winning most of those games that we lost. So I think we're a good team, and, I mean, I think we have a lot of talent.
We carry a lot of momentum, and that's the biggest game around here. And when you win that game, you win the conference with it. That adds a lot more momentum, and it just gives you more momentum to play well. We had a big win against Hampton last week, and now we're ready to roll into the playoffs. That Musket Ball win gave us the 1 seed, and that's the best you can do.
Football's football. We had some injuries. We had a little bit of this, a little bit of that, which is part of football. No excuses at all. We had next man up mentality. You know, I thought we played a really tough schedule that really helped us to get ready, you know, for the playoff push. So hopefully that's going to pay off at the end.
I think it will be a big defensive game. They throw the ball a lot. You know, they have really good wide receivers. They're all pretty fast. So a lot of good skill players. So it'll come down to a defensive game, I think.
It looked like struggles from the outside, but we were really confident this whole year. We had a lot of close losses, but we knew we were not the team that our record showed us to be, and we just kept grinding, and it paid off at the end.
Lots of speed from the offensive side of the ball, really a big play team. You know, good quarterback, good skilled people, good size on offense. Defense, more of an opportunistic defense. They do a lot of movement, very aggressive in the secondary. You know, we'll have to tackle really well. We'll have to not give up the big play. Offensively, just take care of the ball, and we got to win the line of scrimmage. That's what's going to be huge.
It's a big advantage. It's the first time we've done this since a couple years ago. So playing at home will be a big advantage, especially for the first playoff game.
Our crowd, we got the best student section around. We got a great crowd, and it just brings a whole nother type of energy than having to go down to Knoxville and play. You know, it feels kind of foreign down there, and we can stay up here as long as we keep winning. That's really huge.
you know, you heard Jeremy Jenkins talk about this offense that they're getting ready to face Halls. Here's the thing. They have won 2 of their last 5 games. They won their last game of the year last week against Heritage. But let me say this. Heritage hasn't won anything this year. But the Red Devils rolled up an amazing 512 total yards while limiting Heritage to just 184 yards. They also forced 3 turnovers in this contest. So this is the Knox Halls team that's coming up here with a full head of steam.
And, yeah, when you have that experience and you have that type of team that knows what it's doing like that, I mean, obviously, I think where it all starts and ends is DJ Hunt, the running back. You know, if you're able to run the ball with this Knox Halls team, you're going to have a good time. But like I said, Daniel Boone's fronts, I mean, they're just big kids. I mean, it's one of those teams where it's going to be tough to either, you know, get to the quarterback or, you know, try to flip-flop it and, you know, go on the other side of the ball and run the ball. I mean, that's just what it is. But, you know, we see this right now. I think it's against Carnes. Yeah, I mean, that's the type of plays you need. You need those type of big-time runs. Then it opens up the passing game for Jenkins as well to be able to air it out and let it rip. But, I mean, this Knox Halls team, they got a couple of weapons as well on the outside. You got Michael Harrop and, you know, Canman Jansen. And Caden Cuns is the guy under center. So we obviously haven't seen them this season, so we don't know what they bring to the table. I know they probably want some in-depth analysis right now about this team. We haven't seen a lot of them, so we don't know. Coach Jenkins probably can give more input on that, as you just heard from him. But it's one of those teams where if Daniel Boone wins the line of scrimmage, they're going to take this game. I mean, they're just that good. I mean, you got, like I said, the Hamlin brothers on the ends. You got all those weapons on the offensive side. And also, I mean, we didn't bring him up, but Landon Kirkpatrick's been a good wideout for Daniel Boone as well. He's been able to, you know, get beyond the secondary and being able to let Jenkins air it out a little bit. So, you know, the biggest thing for Daniel Boone, win that battle line of scrimmage. That's all you have to do. You got the size to it. Let's just see if they can execute it.
All right, let's move on out of the playoffs in Tennessee to Southwest Virginia. This is their final regular season game of the season before they start playoffs. And we begin, I think, with a good one. Holston taking on Jehowie, a team that we probably should have talked about more this year. Yep. I mean, we've talked about them now. I mean, we've given them love, but they probably should get more, and that's Holston. They come into this game 9-0, and this is after losing their head coach at the end of last season.
And now you just brought that up. I mean, Derek Patterson obviously went to Virginia High. He's turned that program around too, so, you know, that is kind of testament to how good of a coach he is. But Holston with a brand new coach and 9-0, I mean, they just picked up where they left off, which is incredible because usually you see that dip a little bit for any sport with a new head coach. But you know, to be able to battle, roll, retreat, and win by 7 points, obviously that was a fight. But Holston's been rolling this year, man. I mean, they looked real good in certain games this year. Obviously, you have Jordan Ezell running the ball. You know, you got Brian Sheets as well, the man under center, Lane Blevins, Trent Johnson, Gage Quinnis. I mean, those guys absolutely know what they're doing when they have the ball in their hands or on flip-flop because there's probably a couple of these guys that play both sides. So, you know, hats off to Holston.
Sheets is one of those guys. I mean, you mentioned he had 2 touchdowns. He also had like a 60-something pick six in the game as well that allowed Holston to go on and win the Hoagie-Heagie district.
I always like hearing you say Hoagie-Heagie. I'm going to be honest with you. I always lose it. But, yeah, Holston's just one of those teams where when I went to their two-a-days this past summer, there was an intensity there where it was I was hard to be matched by that. I mean, it was just, even though he was a new head coach, he knew what his players needed from him, and it was just intensity, and it's showing off. I mean, undefeated 9-0 record right now. They're rolling right now, so just keep up that intensity. That's really all you have to do going into this postseason. And also, you know, obviously the train's not going to derail if they lose this game, but obviously you want to go into this postseason undefeated with a 10-0 record and kind of not back your way in.
I think you play a little bit more free, don't you? I mean, you already know
100%,
you've locked up the district, so it's not like this is your last game. You're going to play again in the playoffs, and so I think you play a little bit more free. Now, you don't want to get out there and get lackadaisical and all of a sudden mess up a perfect 9-0, 10-0 record. You don't want to do that.
Or get hurt, honestly.
Exactly, yeah. You don't want an injury. Let's talk about who they're playing, a Jehowie team that has been pretty solid, okay? They don't have the 9-0 record, okay? They don't have that. But it's a Jehowie team that's been pretty solid. DJ Martin at quarterback, and then you got Gilly in the backfield have done a good job.
Oh, they've done a phenomenal job. And, you know, it's kind of tough right now because they lost Patrick Henry by 4 last week. And, you know, I think it was a tough game all the way up to, like, middle of the fourth quarter. And Actually, I think Chilhowie had the lead at some point in that fourth quarter. But, you know, Patrick Henry's a good team too, so that's no knock on them or anything like that. But one thing about Chilhowie that really stands out to me is that they're riding 2 straight losses. You lose this one, that's 3 straight losses going into the postseason. That's not the type of momentum you want.
No.
If you win this game over Holston, who's undefeated, that will give them such a big boost. Where
feather in the cap.
Exactly. Those 2 losses go out the window. I mean, anyway, those 2 losses go out the window nonetheless in the postseason. But to be able to beat an undefeated Holston team, carry that momentum into the postseason, it will just raise them up a little bit. And I really think a lot is on the line for the Chilhowie team. I mean, it's just really how you look at it. I mean, 3 straight losses versus a win over an undefeated team, that's really good. I mean, that's just it's night and day compared to them. So, like you said, you brought up DJ Martin and Jonathan Gilly. Those are 2 kids that absolutely bring it. Chase Lewis is also pretty good on this team. But I think what really Chilhowie wants to do is being able to get Martin in the open. I mean, he's a dual threat quarterback, but he's got a great set of wheels on him, and he can make any defender miss.
Our last game that we're going to take a look at in Southwest Virginia, Game 5, is going to be the Abingdon Falcons against the Lehigh Generals. As we take a look at Abingdon, I mean, we talk about it each week. I mean, this is obviously one of the best teams. If not, no, I'm not even going to go there. I'm just going to keep it at one of the best teams in Southwest Virginia because I don't want any respect.
Oh, yeah,
disrespect
those
to
Facebook
Holston.
messages.
Exactly. So that's why I stopped myself.
There you go.
One of the best teams this year in Southwest Virginia, and you know we know why. They have an outstanding running game with Malik, and they got a outstanding quarterback who's continuing to get better each week after coming back from an injury. It's just hard to stop these guys when they get rolling offensively.
Think about that, what you just brought up. I mean, you obviously have Cole Lambert, who has experience underneath his belt from last year, but for those guys to be able to be that good during the early part of the season and then get him, and then they just keep on rolling with it, I mean, it's truly incredible. And you brought up Malik Hounshell, absolutely unit. I mean, the kid's big, he's muscular, he's just stout when he runs the ball. Obviously, you can't forget about Bishop Cook though. So he's a little bit speedier. He's got a little bit more shake and bake to his game. But when you look at those 2 guys, if you're able to run the ball with not only Malik but Bishop as well. I mean, I saw that last week against Union. That was a great win against Union, 23-0. I mean, obviously, we know what kind of game it was. It was a monsoon. Yeah, every single game was last week. So for them to put up 23 against Union, shut them out. We talk about the offense, but the defense shutting out Union. I mean, no one does that. That's unheard of. Exactly. Right. I mean, this Union team is tough. So for Abingdon to be able to do that, that's real impressive. And then obviously, we bring up the ground game and Cole Lambert, but his favorite target is Peyton McClanahan. That kid, 6'4", 6'5", 200 pounds. I mean, the kids can get up. Any ball you throw towards them, there's a good chance he's going to come down with it. We've seen it numerous times this year. And they're really well balanced when the run game's kind of getting stopped a little bit. They can air it out. So I'm going to be interested to see not only against Lee, but how far this Abingdon team can go.
And did you really mention in the same sentence Bishop Cook and Shake and Bake?
I didn't even think of that. I didn't even think.
Same sentence.
That's trademark. That's trademark. That's trademark.
Do you know what Shake and Bake is?
Hey, that's where you put it on the fish or chicken or whatever it is, and then it's seasoning essentially. Come on now. Yes, it is.
What do you do then?
You put it in the oven.
Forget that you just rolled right past the word shake.
You put it in the bag, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, see,
okay,
you put it in,
okay.
hey, I'll just do it quick.
Put it in the oven.
Well, obviously, you don't just. But here's the thing, though. Last time I did that, it didn't work too well. So
I'm turning this into a cooking show.
Hey, that's. That's trademark though. We got to trademark that.
Yeah,
shake and bake with Cook.
Let's go. That in the same sentence kind of threw me there for a second. Let's talk about their opponent, Lee. Yeah. The Generals did not start well at the beginning of the year, trying to stop a losing streak. They continue to grow. But this team has played really well. I mean, I'm not saying that they're coming in on a hot streak, but on Friday nights, they're not going out there getting blown out. They have been very respectable.
That's all you have to do, honestly, towards the end of the season is be able to close out strong. When you close out strong and get that momentum going, who knows what happens against this Abingdon team. I mean, Lehigh obviously has a lot of talent on the table for this team. I think they're going to match up well with Abingdon. I've seen some of the size of their kids. They got some size. They're not the biggest kids, but they do have some size. So, if they're able to move forward, stop that run game, easier said than done, like always. Yeah. I think they're going to give themselves a fighting chance against a really hot Abingdon team. But Let's be honest, man. It's gonna be tough to stop Malik and Bishop. I mean, those kids are absolute units, and I mean, it's just one of those things where if Malik's not feeling it, Bishop's feeling it. If Bishop's not feeling it, Malik's feeling it. If both of them aren't feeling it, it's game over. You ain't gonna stop those two if they're both on their gate game. So I think what Lehigh really needs to do is take it play by play, quarter by quarter. I know that's my coach talk coming out, but it just is one of those teams where there's so many weapons, you just can't focus on one or two of them. You got to be able to just kind of contain it. You're not going to shut it down. You just got to contain it.
They were showing highlights of them playing Wise Central. Also highlights of them playing Gate City earlier. Them and Gate City were pretty close there for a while before Gate City unleashed their Thunderbird or whatever we call them, their Greyhound workhorse in the backfield.
Whatever one you want to use, those all work.
Really fast, you know, and then they started to pull away. So, Lee, talk about putting a feather in their hat. They can put one Friday night if they're able to knock off this Abingdon team right now that's playing really well. All right, thanks a lot, folks, for watching the Prep Football Preview, brought to you by the FriendshipCars.com. Make sure to watch us again every Thursday night for a preview of that week's games. Playoff in Tennessee, final regular season games in Southwest Virginia are on Touchdown Friday night, tomorrow night. So check out the highlights of these games and more. For my man, Teague. What did I call him last week?
Sleeg?
No, I didn't call him a slut.
No, you Sleeg.
Sleater, that's what I call him.
You combine both names. I was like, what?
Yeah, oh, my goodness. Mr. Teague, he's Jesse Kroll. I'm Kenny Hawkins. Thanks, and have a great night.